On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Huge day. This is enormous. Biggest day. Trump was even borderline more excited about this than pretty much anything else going on in the country right now. We're going to get to it. We've got a little bit of video to share from that standpoint as well. So let's hop into it. Also got a music show today. Hopefully you guys will join us. It was inspired by the Gap band. This is the band that did the Who Dropped the Bomb on Me, Baby. Right? Got that song. Got some Kool in the Gang. Got some, Shannon. Got some good stuff, man. Got some really good stuff. In fact, I could give you the whole list, but then you wouldn't want to listen. I honestly think it's kind of funny because I'm calling it like soul, funk, kind of got some good stuff going on to it. I literally think there's only one song in here that's by a white artist. I think everybody's like black, which I think is, kind of cool. I don't know. It's not necessarily what I was going for, but kind of where it nudged. And it's going to be a fun show. We'll be starting that off 3 o'clock Pacific time today, Friday. And we will probably be a little over an hour today. It's going to be fun. But anyway, let's get into it. We got some good stuff to talk about today, and I want to talk about it. Right here, it's Trump just being awesome, and I wanted to share this to start everything off with. Super cool. Is it just me, or does this sort of the little wreaths here? And these are wreaths. I mean, that's what I think they are. But they kind of look like cues, don't they? I thought that was kind of funny. I thought that was interesting. Sometimes getting out of these things is a pain in the ass. Let me tell you. Ow. This is just, again, another beautiful story. This gentleman here on the left saw this man on the right standing in the rain, kind of giving his respects to someone that obviously mattered to him, and this young man went over and held an umbrella over this gentleman's face. He was crying just from the gesture of how sweet and kind this was. And again, just the fact that there are a lot of good people on this planet, and there's a lot of good reasons for us to continue fighting the fight and trying to make the world a better place. Wanted to start here because, well, frankly, this is about as appropriate a place to start when it comes to what's going on. And Ronald Reagan said it very, very well. Gosh, it's funny how here we are today, in the exact same situation, only, 40 years later? Almost? Strange.
Ever notice how every time a Republican takes office, the Democrats start acting like it's the end of the world? I mean, the minute we cut taxes or trim the budget, they start screaming that the sky is falling. Now, don't get me wrong, I admire their consistency. If the stock market surges, they say it's just helping the rich. And if it crashes, they say, yep, that's what happens under Republican leadership. And don't even get me started on foreign policy. A Republican president could be shaking hands with world leaders and signing peace deals, and they'd say, it must be appeasement. But the minute there's tension overseas, they rush to the nearest camera like it's Black Friday saying, see, we told you the world would catch fire if he was in charge. Now, I've always said, it's fine to disagree on policy. That's democracy. But if your best shot at winning is hoping the American people lose, well, maybe you're in the wrong country.
Yeah, right? And that's what we've got. We've got a lot of people that just want to see America lose because they don't want to see Trump win. It's pretty screwed up. Lindsey Graham's closed-door Iran intel briefing, they're talking about the uranium and what possibly happened to it. He doesn't seem to know, but he's going to try to capitalize, being the war hawk that he is.
Here's where we're at. The program was obliterated at those 3 sites, but they still have ambitions. I don't know where the 900 pounds of highly enriched uranium exists, but it wasn't part of the target set.
Is that concerning that in light of that several years, when the administration is saying this is obliterated, it suggests that they're not able to build a weapon. But you're saying in several years, perhaps they'll be able to.
That's what I'm saying. They're obliterated today, but you can reconstitute.
Yeah, whatever. And again, he's trying to figure out how we can go in there and attack him some more is really where Lindsey's at in the big picture. Whatever, the dude's a pile of trash. Donald Trump, so he's talking about the cars. Remember the cars and small trucks we've seen the image of? Well, he actually finally spoke to that in a truth post. Said the cars and small trucks at the site were those of concrete workers trying to cover up the tops of the shafts. Nothing was taken out of the facility. Would take too long, too dangerous, and very heavy and hard to move. Now, again, that is likely where the uranium was. We don't know for sure. Israel says it did not destroy all enriched uranium in Iran, tried to assassinate Khomeini. Israel did not destroy, as they said, the highly enriched uranium. And their defense minister, Israel Katz, said in an interview to Channel 13 on Thursday evening, when asked about the 408 kilograms of highly enriched uranium the Iranians had before the war, and asked if it was moved inside Iran or taken out of the country, Katz said, "It was clear from the outset of our attack that we would not eliminate all of the material. The shared U.S.-Israeli position is that the Iranians will be asked to hand over the material." Might be a direction Trump tries to go with it. We'll see. Trump truth this as well. The Democrats are the ones who leaked the information on the perfect flight to the nuclear sites in Iran. They should be prosecuted. So we know who it is. They know it was the Democrats. Odds are they probably know specifically who it is. If they can pin it on that individual, if they have what we would call proof of treason, we're probably going to see one of the first arrests be a Congress member. And that's going to be pretty crazy. Donald Trump truth this as well. Rumor is that the failing New York Times and fake news CNN will be firing the reporters who made up the fake stories on the Iran nuclear site because they got it so wrong. Let's see what happens. That's true. It'd be kind of fun to see if they actually do that. Here's John Federman talking about how he approves what Trump did.
On the Kane resolution, which will come up tomorrow night, you can vote now.
Well, I'll say this. I love that man, and he's coming in from a very principled side. But I'm going to vote no on that, simply because I would never want to restrict any future president, Republican or Democrat, to do this kind of a military kind of exercise that was very successful this day.
Right. So again, he doesn't want to have to hamstring Trump. It's not fair. Doesn't want that to happen necessarily to a Democratic president. Again, I think Fetterman's like about this close to leaving the Democratic Party behind. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi, he suggested in an interview on Thursday that Iran will be demanding compensation for damages in its illicit nuclear development site and any future diplomatic engagements with America after President Trump approved airstrikes targeting the facility. That is funny. That's hysterically funny. You guys didn't deal like you were supposed to. We took care of the problem. And you want us to pay for it? that's cute. That's cute. Donald Trump truthed this very long but important statement against the Ayatollah. He said, why would the so-called supreme leader, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, of the war-torn country of Iran, say so blatantly and foolishly that he won the war with Israel when he knows his statement is a lie? It is not so. As a man of great faith, he is not supposed to lie. His country was decimated. His 3 evil nuclear sites were obliterated, and I knew exactly where he was sheltered and would not let Israel or the U.S. Armed Forces, by far the greatest and most powerful in the world, terminate his life. I saved him from a very ugly and ignominious death. Ignominious death. That's a weird word. I was going to look it up. I can kind of imagine what it means in its relation, but not easy to say. Ignominious death. Whatever. He does not have to say thank you, President Trump. In fact, in the final acts of the war, I demanded that Israel bring back a very large group of planes, which were heading directly to Tehran, looking for a big day, perhaps the final knockout. Tremendous damage would have ensued, and many Iranians would have been killed. It was going to be the biggest attack of the war by far. During the last few days, I was working on the possible removal of sanctions and other things which would give, or have given, a much better chance to Iran at the full, fast, and complete recovery. The sanctions are biting. But no. Instead, I get hit with a statement of anger, hatred, and disgust, and immediately dropped all work on sanction relief and more. Iran has to get back into the world order flow, or things will only get worse for them. They are always so angry, hostile, and unhappy. And look at what they've gotten, or what it's gotten them. A burned out, blown up country with no future, a decimated military, a horrible economy, and death all around them. They have no hope, and it will only get worse. I wish the leadership of Iran would realize that you often get more with honey than you do with vinegar. Good advice always. Catch more flies with honey, they used to say. Los Angeles residents are on the edge as absolutely terrifying violent squatters are terrorizing ritzy neighborhoods. Literally, this is just homeless people beating up a gardener. Literally, they're squatting, they're starting fires in nice properties. A lot of people are concerned. This was that guy, the gardener, got beat up pretty good by that dude with the stick. And this is the kind of stuff that happens in California, in Los Angeles specifically. Why? Because they don't take care of things. They don't look out for the citizens. They don't actually care about the legal citizens that are here. They care more about the illegal. They care more about homeless. They care more about everybody else other than the people that pay taxes. That's the sad part. California's a mess. Oops, I don't know if I did that everywhere or just, no, cool. Cancer patient recovers by taking repurposed antiparasitic drug. This is a really cool story. So this dude, Joe Tippins, never planned to discover a potential remedy that he credits with saving his life and thrust him into the spotlight among notable cancer survivors. 67-year-old businessman told the Epoch Times he just wanted to beat a type of cancer with an extremely low survival rate. In August 2016, Tippins was diagnosed with a small cell lung cancer with a fist-sized tumor. After undergoing chemotherapy and radiation 5 times a week in Houston, the large tumor in his left lung was eliminated. However, Tippins said the treatments came closer to killing him than curing him. When he returned home to Oklahoma after the new year, he received devastating news. His oncologist told him he had 0 chance of surviving for more than a few months. In January of 2017, my PET scan lit up like a Christmas tree, and I had wide metastasis everywhere, including in my neck, bones, pancreas, and liver. Finding a lifeline, facing this prognosis of 3 months to live, Tippins heard an intriguing story from a veteran he knew. A scientist with terminal cancer reportedly cured her lab mice and then herself using fenbendazole, an antiparasitic drug. The story was the beginning of what eventually became the Joe Tippins protocol. Fenbendazole, used for 30 years to treat intestinal parasites in animals, has not received U.S. Food and Drug Administration approval for human use, meaning doctors cannot prescribe it for people. However, with a terminal diagnosis and nothing to lose, Tippins decided to try it alongside his conventional treatments. Tippins found that Panacur, a trade name for fenbendazole, was sold over the counter at outlets that carry veterinary medications. Starting in the 3rd week of January 2017, Tippins began taking the canine medication Panacur 1 gram per day for 3 consecutive days per week. After 4 days without the medication, which contains about 222 milligrams of fenbendazole per gram, he would repeat his 3-day routine. 3 months later, so he'd do 3 days on, 4 days off, 3 days on, 4 days off, 3 days on, 4 days off. He did that for 3 months, and Tippins tested cancer-free. His protocol also included theracurmin. It's a form of an active compound in turmeric, and CBD, an extract of cannabis, which does not cause intoxication. I actually love turmeric. It's good stuff. So scientific support and mechanisms. Dr. William Makis, an oncologist and cancer researcher based in Edmonton, Canada, has studied Tippins' approach and treats cancer patients worldwide, primarily through telehealth. I've had several patients declare cancer-free after doing the protocol for a number of months. What made Tippins' situation so powerful is that he cured himself of cancer that is very aggressive, small cell lung cancer, and he had a terminal diagnosis. According to Makis, the family of antiparasitic drugs that includes fenbendazole, mebendazole, and albendazole works well. Scientists have found at least 12 ways the medications can fight cancer. These are new studies that are finally being allowed to look into. Also, some of the things that come from antiparasitic drugs appears to fight cancer through multiple mechanisms. So apparently it boosts the protein called P53. P53 is a tumor suppressor protein that helps kill cancer cells, blocking glucose uptake. Cancer cells depend on sugar for energy and growth. That's why they say you've got to stop eating sugar. Well, especially when you got cancer. Disrupting microtubules. These cellular structures are crucial for cell division of cancer cells and affecting mitochondrial function. Depletes cellular energy, increases oxidative stress, and blocks a critical pathway that regulates cell growth of cancer cells. Why do I bring all this up? Well, one, it's good to know, but two, the antiparasitics are one of the major ways that we are finding major cures. And this is exactly what we were just talking about. Ivermectin and mebendazole. Together, one pill, you got 25 milligrams of ivermectin, 250 milligrams of mebendazole. It's a 3-month treatment, one pill a day, and it removes parasites. Based off the last story, it does a lot of things. And, many people might have small forms of cancer inside their bodies and maybe nothing that's ever going to matter. Maybe it does eventually get bigger. Maybe some of us aren't aware of even some faster moving cancers, but we are finding huge success with these treatments. I highly recommend you go to twc.health/OTF. I did it. I made the plunge 2 days ago, I think it was. Go to twc.health/OTF, twc.health/OTF. This is an actual prescription. You've got to fill out information like allergies and all that crap. It is like literally a prescription. And before they'll send it to you, you got to fill all that information out. I did it. I gave up that info. You've got to. That's the only way you're going to get this. But at the same time, you're going to get this parasite cleanse. And this is an incredible option. There's a lot of really other great stuff that they've got. I don't want to spend too much time on it, but you seriously should go looking under the whole Revive section down here when you go to shop. Their supplements are incredible. Their emergency kits, the Contagion kit, for example, highly recommend having that on hand in case some weird viral thing starts running around. But they've got anti-aging, they've got weight loss, they've got everything. They've got cleanse and detox, hair loss support, heart health, so many great things. Go to TWC, the wellness company, twc.health/OTF. That's twc.health/OTF. Make those smart choices and you'll see a healthier life, that's for sure. Trump team launches a super PAC focused solely on ousting Thomas Massie. Yes, I am stoked. There is not a politician right now that I dislike more than this dude. I dislike Thomas Massie so freaking much. Some might say, why, Dan? I don't know, because he's a dick. Outside of that, I dislike him tremendously, and it always reminds me of this one guy that kept emailing me and trying to talk me into how Massie was a good guy and blah, 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 and I just kept insisting that he was wrong. I didn't tell him that straight to his face, but yeah, I keep thinking of that dude and how funny it is, and I'm like, I haven't heard from him in a long time. Where's your love for Massie now, Dude's a pile of trash, and Trump's going to do everything in his power to replace him, and I will support that effort every possible way I can. All right, let's get into the Supreme Court stuff. This is awesome. Like 3 major things came out. I think 4, but one of them I'm kind of ignoring because meh. But the Supreme Court slaps down activist judges, curbs injunctions against Trump birthright citizenship executive order. What they basically said, in a nutshell, is you, as a district court, can only affect the clients that have come to you, and you can only stop things within your district. You cannot go out further than that, and you certainly cannot represent people that aren't part of the case. It shut down all of this federal district court nonsense. All of it. Supposedly, of the 40 injunctions they were talking about, and I think I might have this, 35 of them, Pam Bondi is going to share this with us, 35 of them came from the same 5 districts. Of the 40, 5 districts did 35 of the 40. That's insane. So 6-3 vote, not a surprise. Rules nationwide injunctions exceed the power of individual federal court judges. This case is about birthright citizenship. They didn't really cover that part. That's supposed to come later. We'll hear Pam Bondi talking about that as well. Barrett wrote the majority opinion. Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jumanji dissented. In fact, Jumanji kind of got a smackdown, and it's pretty funny. And I'm going to read it down here. So Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson specifically called out, they say for being retarded, kind of. So they said right here, and this is Comey Barrett's thing, said, we will not dwell on Justice Jackson's argument, which is at odds with more than 2 centuries worth of precedent, not to mention the Constitution itself. We observe only this. Justice Jackson decries an imperial executive while embracing an imperial judiciary. No one disputes that the executive has a duty to follow the law, but the judiciary does not have unbridled authority to enforce this obligation. In fact, sometimes the law prohibits the judiciary from doing so. See the example of Marjorie versus Madison. 1 Cranch 137 concluded that James Madison had violated the law, but holding that the court lacked jurisdiction to issue a writ of mandamus ordering him to follow it. But see post at 15, Jackson J. dissenting. If courts do not have the authority to require the executive to adhere to law universally, compliance with law sometimes becomes a matter of executive prerogative. Observing the limits on judicial authority, including, as relevant here, the boundaries of the Judiciary Act of 1789, is required by a judge's oath to follow the law. Justice Jackson skips over that part because analyzing the governing statute involves boring legalese. Post at 3, she seeks to answer a far more basic question of enormous practical significance. May a federal court in the United States of America order the executive to follow the law? I bid. In other words, it is unnecessary to consider whether Congress has constrained the judiciary. What matters is how the judiciary may constrain the executive. Justice Jackson would do well to heed her own admonition. Everyone, from the president on down, is bound by the law. That goes for judges, too. Big time. Big time. So this was a powerful hit to the deep state, without a doubt. Here's Trump, his part of this speech, and then I've got the Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche as part of this as well. Check it out.
This morning, the Supreme Court has delivered a monumental victory for the Constitution, the separation of powers, and the rule of law in striking down the excessive use of nationwide injunctions to interfere with the normal functioning of the executive branch. The Supreme Court has stopped the presidency itself. That's what they've done. And really, it's been an amazing period of time this last hour. There are people elated all over the country. I've seen such happiness and spirit. Sometimes you don't see that, but this case is very important. I was elected on a historic mandate, but in recent months we've seen a handful of radical left judges effectively try to overrule the rightful powers of the president to stop the American people from getting the policies that they voted for in record numbers. It was a grave threat to democracy, frankly, and instead of merely ruling on the immediate cases before them, these judges have attempted to dictate the law for the entire nation. In practice, this meant that if any one of the nearly 700 federal judges disagreed with the policy of a duly elected president of the United States, he or she could block that policy from going into effect or at least delay it for many years, tie it up in the court system. This was a colossal abuse of power which never occurred in American history prior to recent decades, and we've been hit with more nationwide injunctions than were issued in the entire 20th century together. Think of it, more than the entire 20th century, me. I'm grateful to the Supreme Court for stepping in and solving this very, very big and complex problem, and they've made it very simple. I want to thank Justice Barrett, who wrote the opinion brilliantly, as well as Chief Justice Roberts, and Justices Alito, Gorsuch, Kavanaugh, and Thomas. Great people.
Very great people. I'm going to go ahead and play the part where Blanche and the hell's her name? Bondi. Oh my God, I'm having a hard time today. I don't know why. Brain's not working. But yeah, Pam Bondi and Blanche, which I've been saying his name wrong forever. Finally learned how to say, was it Bovee, I think is the other guy that I was like, I learned both of their names. I've been mispronouncing both those dudes for a long time. So anyway, Todd Blanche, Pam Bondi, got it now. We're good to go. Here it is. Check it out.
Thank you, President Trump. Thank you for fighting for all Americans. Americans are finally getting what they voted for. No longer will we have rogue judges striking down President Trump's policies across the entire nation. No longer. Today, in the 6-3 opinion, Justice Barrett correctly holds that the district court lacks authority to enter nationwide or universal injunctions. These lawless injunctions gave relief to everyone in the world instead of the parties before the court. As the Supreme Court held today, they turned district courts into the imperial judiciary. Active liberal judges have used these injunctions to block virtually all of President Trump's policies. To put this in perspective, there are 94 federal judicial districts. 5 of those districts throughout this country held 35 of the nationwide injunctions. Think about that. 94 districts. And 35 out of the 40 opinions with nationwide injunctions came from 5 liberal districts in this country. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have blocked our policies from tariffs to military readiness to immigration to foreign affairs, fraud, abuse, and many other issues. The judges have tried to seize the executive branch's power, and they cannot do that. No longer. No longer. And on immigration, on a side note, today marks 2,711 arrests on these terrorists and these gangs. Total arrest today with HSI investigations. And thank you, Stephen Miller. Thank you to Homeland Security. Thank you to everyone working hand in hand with the FBI on all of these transnational gangs. TDA has been a huge terror to our country, as well as MS-13, as well as Sinaloa cartels. No longer. No longer. These injunctions have allowed district court judges to be emperors. They vetoed all of President Trump's power, and they cannot do that. This has been a bipartisan problem that has lasted 5 presidential terms, 5 different presidents, and it has ended today. We will continue to fight for President Trump's policies. I want to thank the Office of White House Counsel, Dave Warrington. You and your staff have been incredible. Our Solicitor General's office, John Sowers, Sarah Harris, and Todd Blanche and Emil Bovey. Todd's going to say a few words because we've had another major ruling today on transgender books and some other great wins that we've had. But no longer will they have this power in our country. It is the president's authority under his executive branch to do everything to fight for the American people, and he will continue to do that. That's why he was overwhelmingly elected. Thank you.
Thank you. Today's a great day for the rule of law. It's a great day for the Justice Department, and it's one that's been a long time coming, and one that every American should have been waiting for with bated breath. And so I echo what the President said and Attorney General Bondi, that the Supreme Court did a great thing today, not only for this administration, but for every American in this country. If not for the injunctions case, we would be here talking about another great decision that came down today, the trans books case, which restores parents' rights to decide their child's education. Seems like a basic idea, but it took the Supreme Court to set the record straight, and we thank them for that. And now that ruling allows parents to opt out of dangerous trans ideology and make the decisions for their children that they believe is correct. And so we thank the Supreme Court for that. There's been multiple decisions over the past several weeks that just show why this nationwide injunction ban had to happen. For example, what I mean by that is local district court judges issuing decisions that are clearly contrary to law just because they don't like the policy of President Trump. And when it gets to the Supreme Court has to correct it. But that takes time. The Attorney General thanked our lawyers, and I'll do it again. Our lawyers are working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week to fight these injunctions and to emergency appeals, emergency stays, going back to the district court judge, asking them to change their view. And so their hard work is really paying off today, but over the past few weeks. We had a stay of an order that prevented DHS from moving aliens to a third country. We had a stay of an order that stopped the Department of Defense from implementing military readiness, the EO that President Trump signed. We had another stay of an order forcing reinstatement of fired executive branch employees, entirely within the President and Article 2, his right to do. We had a stay of, as you all know, of numerous DOJ cases. And again, every one of those stays requires a tremendous amount of work and effort by the lawyers and parties involved, and they should be doing other work. They should be doing the work that the president and this administration demands and has a right to demand, and not fighting these local judges who don't make decisions based on the law. They make decisions because they just simply don't agree with the administration's decision about a policy, and that's wrong. Thank you.
Yeah, that's again, we're making progress in all the right directions, and I am grateful that we are doing exactly that. So powerful times and a big move for us all. So again, yeah, her majority opinion. She juked Ketanji Brown Jackson from orbit, so glad that happened. Supreme Court upholds Texas age verification law for adult websites, says this does not violate the First Amendment. So that was another 6-3 decision, big surprise. Supreme Court rules in favor of Maryland parents who want to pull kids from classes with LGBT-themed information. Another 6-3 on that one. So again, we had some major cases come through, and that's powerful. ICE has got themselves 130 Iranians in this week. So we're talking about that 1,000 plus or more of Iranians that are here and likely are terrorist cells. Looks like they just caught themselves a bunch of them, so that's fantastic. 160 Democrats just voted against deporting illegal alien drunk drivers. What is powerful about this particular vote is there was 37 Democrats that actually voted for it. It passed, but 160 Democrats don't feel that if an illegal alien gets busted drunk driving, that they should be kicked out of the country. Here's the thing, like, if you're here illegally, you shouldn't be breaking the law. If you end up on the radar, something's going to happen, right? So don't end up on the radar. That's the thing. If you want to drink, don't drive. Fine, right? I'm not gonna pass judgment there, certainly. But needless to say, that is pretty powerful too. Trump is forcing states to end tuition giveaways to illegal migrants. This is another thing that they would have had an injunction stop. That's no longer going to happen. So they're looking at all sorts of different places. Lone Star State was actually one of the first states that they changed this on, and they did. They got rid of it. Department of Justice is now suing Kentucky over its migration tuition policy, right? These red states. Think about that. It's kind of funny. So these practices are ending, and they should be. Trump administration plans to deport Kilmar Garcia to a third country if he's released from jail. What's kind of funny about this is Garcia's lawyers are basically, and him, are basically saying, I'd rather stay in jail. You sure? You sure you don't want to get out of jail? Remember that judge said that you had to be released. You sure you don't want to be released? Because the second he is, they're deporting his ass. So he's going to stay in jail for now. Maybe a smart move, who knows? Trump is poised to try to remove non-citizens from the census. This is going to be interesting. There's a lot of, they've been counting people that weren't legal for a long time, but really the law goes back to the slaves and counting them and all of that. And so there's been a lot of this adjustment of the law, I guess, or misinterpreting of the law based off of what we did for slavery and the 14th Amendment and all this stuff. Long story short, they're going to push for this. And what would ultimately happen if they were able to change the census numbers is you've got states like Louisiana, Missouri, Montana, and Ohio, and North Carolina. They'd actually have gained a seat in the House, where California would have lost 3 seats. Texas and Florida would have each have lost 1. So this is one of the main reasons why they do it and why they try to count it is you've got all these blue sanctuary states that are benefiting from this. And so this is why they don't want to lose that count, because these blue sanctuary states are getting an advantage. It's a big part of why they're doing the sanctuary cities and states is because it enhances that illegal population. With that illegal population is more seats in Congress, more power in Congress. And frankly, it shouldn't be happening. Especially when you got crap states like mine, California, that, we're trying to change the rules of the whole nation. And we would lose 3 seats. Good. We should. We don't deserve them. In fact, we've had a mass migration or exodus of people from California as well. We should have lost the seat for that as well. So I'd like to see accurate numbers for sure. Tom Homan says this big, beautiful bill shouldn't be nonpartisan.
Well, look, I think this issue of the big, beautiful bill should be nonpartisan. I don't know what the hell's the matter with everybody up in Congress? People are dying every day. ICE is arresting 3 times as many criminals that the Biden administration did. We're taking public safety threats and national security threats off the street every single day. But we got over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal histories walking the streets of this country. We got less than 5,000 deportation officers. This should be a no-brainer. The more resources we get, if we get this bill passed, we got more agents on the road. We buy more beds, we get more transportation flights. More agents means more bad guys arrested, taken off the streets of this country every single day. Every day we arrest a public safety threat or national security threat. This makes this country much safer. Who the hell would be against that? And I get irritated, I get pissed off because I'm sick of meeting angel moms and dads. You want to talk about family separation? They bury their children. So I've done this since 1984. I've worked for 6 different presidents. No one has had the success of the Trump administration. We got the most secure border in the history of this nation today. But we need more border wall. Border walls save lives. Women and children can't get over that wall, which means they go to a place where there's not a wall. And what's waiting on them? The men and women of the Border Patrol who take care of the humanitarian needs and save their lives. We already got fentanyl seizures down half. Fentanyl seizures should be 100%. We should have 0 fentanyl coming to this country. We need money to help secure that border at a higher level. Stop the fentanyl from coming in. Stop the sex trafficking of women and children. Stop the known inspected terrorists coming across that border. Right now, I was looking at the stats today. ICE is arresting a record number of known suspected terrorists in this country along with the FBI. With more money, we can arrest more of these people, make this country safer. This is a nonpartisan issue. Let's make this country safe again. So the Democrats and the Republicans and the Independents, I don't care who you're from, pass the bill so we make this country safe, so we can stop the violence against ICE officers. Let's make this country safe again. And without that bill, it's going to be a hard road. We got a lot of people to look for, a lot of people to arrest, a lot of national security threats we know are in this country. We need to find them. We need more money to do that. We need more agents to do that. For God's sake, let's pass this bill and get this done.
Amen. Hey, friggin' men. Washington Post report says the Department of Government Efficiency, a group working to simplify federal rules, is joining forces with the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives to get rid of more than 50 gun regulations by July 4th, 2025. Not too far away, guys. Less than a week. Well, a week, basically. So insiders told the Post his plan starts with 47 rules, a wink at President Donald Trump being the 47th president, but it's grown bigger since. Love to see that happen, and I think many of you guys would agree as well. Also an interesting story. Oversight Project refers former FBI Director Wray to the DOJ for criminal charges. The watchdog accused Wray of misleading Congress about the apparent cover-up of a Chinese election interference and the FBI's anti-Catholic memo. FBI Director Kash Patel announced earlier this month that the Bureau located an intelligence report from August 2020 that detailed alarming allegations regarding an apparent Chinese communist plot to interfere in the presidential elections for the benefit of then-candidate Joe Biden. Such allegations, if brought to light at that time, would have vindicated the concerns about voter fraud and foreign election interference then expressed by President Donald Trump and former Attorney General Bill Barr, which were written off by election officials, Democrats, and liberal media as unfounded and preposterous. Instead, elements of the intelligence community apparently covered up the alleged foreign election interference campaign. Former FBI leadership withheld the facts and misled the public on China's 2020 election interference, Patel said on Thursday, and they did so for political gain. Patel noted in a separate message, "We're restoring trust through transparency, not politics." So they are going to be pushing this guy to get Wray busted. We'll see how this works out, right? We'll see what they can actually pull off and whether or not, whether this pushes forward. A lot of stuff in here. There's Oversight Project made abundantly clear in the referral that it was highly unlikely Wray was unaware of this report and the allegations therein when he testified before Congress in 2020 and 2021. After all, Wray apparently received routine briefings about threats to the integrity of the 2020 election from Nikki Flores, the FBI Assistant Director for Counterterrorism at the time, who had raised the alarm in October 2019 about China aggressively pursuing foreign influence operations. And, of course, the weaponization against Catholics. We'll see if that actually goes anywhere. Carrie Lake, pretty cool stuff here. They're talking about how they're going to shut down this USAGM group, one of the deep state's most loved tools. There's another one of their tools that's going bye-bye.
This agency is a giant rot, and I'm working hard. And you mentioned Michael Pack. He was in the hearing room yesterday. He got the ball rolling with doing some investigations. He never got the credit he deserved. He worked very hard. They tried to tear him apart. And it should tell you how corrupt this agency is. Michael Pack was given that role by President Trump early in his first administration. They dragged their feet. It took 3.5 years for them to confirm him because they didn't want him to get in and look under the hood at this corrupt agency. It's one of the deep state's most favorite agencies. They call it pound for pound the most corrupt agency in all of Washington, D.C., and I've been there now for a few months. I've been working really hard, and I can affirm I believe it is the most corrupt agency in Washington, D.C. We're going to rue the day that they ran elections the way and robbed the people of Arizona from having me as their governor, because we are going to do the people's work now in Washington, D.C., and they're going to see what kind of work I do for the American taxpayer. And I'm honored to be working for President Trump in this administration, and we will not stop. They will not stop us from doing our work.
Amen. Amen. I gotta play this. Jordan Saylor is he's a controversial guy to some. I like him. I like the fact that he kind of calls people out for what they are. But this is him kind of going off on this whole MAGA Inc. and Candace Owens. And frankly, I think Candace has way overstepped her bounds. And I think Jordan actually does a pretty good job really breaking it down. Check it out.
Oh, Candace Owens, what is happening to her? And you know, the whole mainstream conservative Inc. crowd is a hot freaking mess. There's very few influencers with over 1 million followers that I take seriously because they too are probably influenced themselves by somebody or some group. And Candace used to be great when she stuck to social issues, but over the past 6 months, she's really shit the bed. Going full Jew-man bad, teaming up with Ian Carroll for that whole RFK Jr. is being blackmailed by Israel with the sex tape charade. Still waiting on evidence for that to drop, Candace and Ian. It's been months now. And more recently, she's telling military members to go AWOL for a war that didn't happen.
That if war in Iran is on the agenda, and that appears so, get dishonorably discharged. Who cares?
She says she regrets voting for Trump, that he's an embarrassment. And she's offering $10,000 for tips on who's making mean videos about her online. Wait, people are making money to expose videos about clickbait clowns on the internet? I do this for free. What am I doing wrong? And in my opinion, if you can't take the heat, get off the battlefield. My friends, this is your big hint to be careful with news commentating influencers online. Even my dumbass. But especially the ones with millions of followers and big, huge platforms. Keep your head on a swivel and always verify. Don't get sucked into the confirmation bias and cult-like thinking out there.
Very true. And I'll be honest. I've been approached numerous times, not by people that have offered money, but oftentimes people that try to influence through information that is almost always unvetted, impossible to verify, usually from crap sources. That happens a lot. A lot. I frequently have people reach out and feed me crap information. Like I said, that one example, and I'm not trying to pick on the guy. He might be a nice person. I don't know. But the guy that kept insisting that Thomas Massey was a good person. It's those types of things. And there's a lot of content creators out here that get sources that'll talk to them. They'll be like, oh, I'm such and such, and this is what my job is. And they just go, oh, okay, so you obviously know what you're talking about. They don't vet it. They don't try to figure out if these people actually do have credentials. And as I've said many, many, many times, just because someone has credentials, assuming they're actually true, doesn't mean they're honest. And this is another thing that people make really weird leaps of logic. Someone's got credentials. They've got to be telling the truth. No, they don't. They don't have to be. They could be lying just as much as anybody else does. In fact, if they've got actual credentials and are lying, it's almost worse. Right? Because they know the harm they're doing. So, again, I don't know. I like what Jordan's saying there. GOP, with this big, bad, beautiful bill or whatever the frick it is, they're a whole bunch of mega bill setbacks. They're going back and forth. I don't know. There's a lot of talk going on. The parliamentarian is fighting stuff. Even Trump actually said that, you know, there's stuff that he disagrees with her. We know that we can fix the language on some of the things. And he says, you know, on other stuff, he gets it. He gets where she's at. So even Trump's like, no, fire her. He's not saying that. No. In fact, that was, who did I see? Marjorie Taylor Greene's coming out now and pissed off at Thune for not firing the parliamentarian. It's like, what the shit, man? Marjorie, stay in your freaking lane, dude. Seriously. And again, I get she's the bulldog. So it's like, all right, it's just Marjorie barking. Good God. Senate parliamentarian approves tweaked SNAP cost share plan. So they tweaked the language. This is now okay. See, it's not the end of the world. Senate Republicans explore tweaks to the pension plan after the parliamentarian rule. So they're again trying to fix a lot of this stuff. They don't have a lot of time, but they're trying. GOP also kills the revenge tax. This wasn't because of the parliamentarian. This was actually Scott Bessent actually asked them to remove it. I believe it. Yeah, it was him. And what Scott said is after months of productive dialogue. Well, first off, let me kind of explain what the hell this tax is, or at least do my best to. This revenge tax has to do with the unfair trading practices that some nations do, or the way that they actually try to tax some of our American companies in very strange, weird ways. So this Section 899, this revenge tax, was really meant to be used for that kind of fighting back against that. And so Scott's like, no, I want you guys to take that out. It was literally by him. But he said after months of productive dialogue with other countries on the OECD global tax deal, we will announce a joint understanding among G7 countries that defends American interests. President Trump paved the way for this historic achievement. On January 20th, the president issued 2 executive orders instructing Treasury to defund U.S. tax sovereignty, and as a result of the President Trump's leadership, we now have a great deal for the American people. OECD Pillar 2 taxes will not apply to U.S. companies, and we will work cooperatively to implement this agreement across the OECD G20 inclusive framework in coming weeks and months. I want to thank my G7 counterparts for their partnership and collaboration towards achieving this historic outcome. Based on this progress and understanding, I have asked the Senate and House to remove the Section 899 protective measures from consideration in the One Big Beautiful Bill. This understanding with our G7 partners provides greater certainty and stability for the global economy and will enhance growth and investment in the United States and beyond. I thank Senator Crapo and Chairman Smith for their leadership that made this day possible. By reversing the Biden administration's unwise commitments, we are now protecting our nation's authority to enact tax policies that serve the interest of American businesses and workers. We are also preserving our tax base, preventing the loss of over $100 billion in American taxpayer money, according to Treasury estimates and the nonpartisan Joint Committee on Taxation. Trump administration remains vigilant against all discriminatory and extraterritorial foreign taxes applied against Americans. We will defend our tax sovereignty and resist efforts to create an unlevel playing field for our citizens and companies. So good stuff. Good job. And of course, Mike Crapo, Senator Crapo, such a crappy name, I guess, poor guy. Needless to say, I'm sure he got teased plenty, and I'm probably at this point is immune to any jabs that he might get. 5 House Republicans declare a red line on the mega bill land sales. Again, we'll see how this all plays out. But 5 members of the GOP House essentially saying, look, if they sell public land for industry purposes, then that's it. We're out. Forget it. Mike Simpson, Dan Newhouse, Cliff Bentz, David Valadio? I don't know. And did I get everyone? I feel like that was only 4. Whatever. Those members are, they're not happy about that part of the bill. I'm kind of mixed on it. I don't necessarily, I like the fact that there's a lot of federal land that's kept and meant to be pristine and stuff like that. I think that's kind of cool, right? We don't want to just turn everything into, chop all the trees down and all that. But at the same time, I do know that the federal government's overstepped in many cases, grabbed land that they didn't necessarily deserve. I know Biden was doing a lot of that stuff with the waterways. And so there's probably land that we could give up and be used better, like data centers or power or, a lot of things like that. So, I'm, personally, I'm kind of like, let's talk about it, right? Like, let's have discussions and see. I'm not as hardcore black and white as most people tend to be. Mega bill delay is very possible, Johnson's saying. He's going to do everything he can. He's nervous about this deadline at this point because the Senate, I think they need to give 72-hour rule, which I believe this rule is 72 hours to look over the bill rather than trying to force a vote, which is good. But they've got to allow that on top of whatever the Senate eats up. So if the Senate hands this to them just barely before the 4th, well, that's not going to give them 72 hours easily, right? So the 72-hour delay could push us past the July 4th deadline. Again, Speaker Johnson's doing everything he can, and he says it's possible, but I don't even want to accept this as an option right now. Essentially saying, just warning you guys, there's some factors that are outside of my control, and fair enough. GE Appliances invests $490 million in Kentucky, bringing back jobs from China. Hopefully we can get Kentucky's politicians to pull their heads out of their asses. Because every single one of them, well, the 3 of them, I don't know if they got some other good ones there. Hopefully they do, but Thomas Massey's Kentucky. We've got, of course, Rand Paul, and, of course, Mitch McConnell. Yeah, we got some problems going on out there, but at least you guys got a sweet deal and some good jobs coming your way, so fantastic. UK is going to buy some US F-35s as Starmer signals NATO commitment. They're going to buy 12 of these. I think this is part of just making a sweet deal with us. And 2, they have gravity bombs, gravity nukes, essentially. The B-61-12 tactical nuclear bomb. The F-35 was certified to carry that back in 2023. And right now the RAF doesn't have any abilities to drop this particular bomb, which is strange. They used to make some pretty decent aircraft. I don't know why they stopped doing it. Probably got too expensive for them, or all the crazy stuff they're doing politically. Who knows? China's stalling the rare earth import approvals, causing delays for U.S. manufacturers. Car companies are a little nervous about this. I almost want to play this just because it's my girl, Tiffany. But then I almost want to cheat on her with this other girl. I don't know if I got that video. I probably don't. Oh, my God. There's another one. Beautiful, beautiful young lady. Anyway, I got problems. Girlfriend's out of town, too. I miss her. China is going to approve controlled exports to U.S. following talks. So, again, we'll see what's going on. China's kind of being tight-lipped on whether or not this is going to include the rare earths. China wants to use the rare earths as its bargaining chip. I think we've got some bargaining chips as well. China is kind of doing this in a weird, underhanded way. We certainly don't trust them, and my guess is they're going to kind of stall on the rare earths. We'll see. We'll see. But we need them badly, especially these like little magnet things, and they got some specific stuff they're trying to do, so we'll see what's happening. Stock market, it's doing okay, I guess. NASDAQ's down a teeny tiny bit. Gold's down a bit. I'm surprised it's dropped kind of well below that 33.50 mark, which is interesting. I know it's going to come back up. I'm not worried about it, but 32.86 right now, that's great. Good price. Price of oil's definitely coming up a little bit. It's at 65 right now, so things are kind of heading in sort of a funky direction. Now, I brought this story up not because I wanted to necessarily beat up on NBC in Maine for having a drag queen weather hour. That's a stupid idea, and it did cause them some problems. They ended up taking it down. There's a 404 error now when you try to go to this particular location. It's all that DEI and all that nonsense. But what jumped out at me that I thought was worth sharing was this. Public records analysis reveals that News Center Maine, and that's the joint TV news brand of WCSH Channel 6 in Portland and WLBZ Channel 2 in Bangor, they're both owned by this company called Tagna Inc. Upstream ownership of Tagna, well, no surprises. We got Merrill Lynch and Company. We got Trident Merger LLC. We got Blacksmith Multimedia Inc. And then downstream, we've got Vanguard Group and BlackRock Inc., and then that goes down into Tegna. This is where a lot of your guys' 401ks are invested, is in stuff like this. And you wouldn't even know it. That's the main reason I got out of the 401ks, is I didn't like where they were investing my money. I also don't like the uncertainty. Talked a lot about it. Don't want to spend a huge amount of time, but my good friends at Goldco can help you. If you got a 401k or an IRA, highly recommend getting the heck out of it. Get into something that's stable. Get into something that's actually performing admirably well. You got a chance to get up to 10% of free silver of the face value of that 401k. Also recommend these guys to buy silver. I've done that before. Bought some silver. Did I buy any gold? I think I bought a little gold and some silver. I don't know. Whatever the case was, I got some stuff, and it was pretty cool. It was very easy, and just the great customer service. I literally had it all finished within, I want to say there's like 2 emails, and then I had a DocuSign, and that was it. I was on my way. And so very easy stuff, and then it showed up in the mail, and life was good and groovy. So 4 data points. If you're interested in buying some precious metals, they've got a whole bunch of suppliers. They've got a lot of different kinds of metals too, platinum and some of the other fun ones. So you can get some different stuff if you want. Highly recommend silver. Silver is very undervalued right now. It is definitely going to go up, unquestionably. We've got some weird stuff that's bound to hit us in the not too distant future. We know Europe is having an extraordinarily difficult time right now, and they're going to continue to because they keep mismanaging things. And we've got Germany that's starting to fail, and we've got France that's having issues and slowing down. These are going to cause major problems. These are the 2 biggest proponents, or biggest, the ones that fund most of the European Union, those 2 countries, and they're crumbling. So we are going through some changes, and more changes are coming. I think Trump is putting us in a good place to survive this better than most, but stock markets are stock markets, and there's a giant bubble that's waiting to pop, and they keep trying to keep it from popping. Whatever the case is, go to drslikesgold.com, drslikesgold.com. Get out of their system before they literally take away that option from you. There's a lot of crazies going in the world, guys. Don't be caught flat-footed. It's not going to work. We got a Chinese doctor who fled his home country after blowing the whistle regarding COVID-19 research. Says that Chinese scientists working in America are trained to steal research from the U.S. institutions and represent a significant national security threat. Li Mengyan, a Chinese-educated doctor born in Qingdao, China, says that Chinese scientists are obligated by the government through a contract to help steal U.S. intellectual property, research, and anything else of value for use by the Chinese Communist Party. The doctor's assessment comes as the Trump administration has launched a vetting process for the hundreds of foreign scientists currently working in the United States from countries of concern like China, who were granted visas with the help of the National Institutes of Health and other federal research agencies. Tied in with the communists. That's why they were doing all this stuff. That's why Fauci was doing the stuff he was doing. That's why EcoHealth was working in China and using U.S. aid funding to do that, and NIH funding as well. This is what they've been doing. They've intentionally been giving away our country because China bought and paid for all these politicians so they would look the other way and let China continuing to steal from us. We're idiots if we let them keep doing that. Now, oddly, this is some crazy technology here, but China has unveiled its 0.6 centimeter mosquito-like spy drone designed for stealth missions. It's a little person's hand. I don't know if you can see this image. For those of you, should probably look at the screen, but this itty-bitty little flying camera with, I'm sure, a microphone, and it's got an antenna sticking out the bottom, it looks like, and it looks just like a bug. And they're able to put that into a room where conversations are ongoing, right? Now, again, you should be able to find something like that, especially, I don't know if they're smart enough to have it stream or if it can hold so much data. I don't know how much holding memory it could possibly have is that small, but I'm sure we've got memory down to pretty small size. U.S. reportedly mulls easing Iran sanctions, assisting non-enrichment nuclear programs. They're trying to come up with ways to give Iran a chance. Now, Trump's kind of pissed at them right now because of all the crap they said, and then obviously we've got Ayatollah that's making up lies. Trump's like, man, I was trying to work out a deal with you guys. I guess I'm going to take a break from that. Basically, F you, if that's how you're going to be. So, yeah, but they were trying to work out a deal. Iran cracks down on dissidents, after a humiliating 12-day war. So again, a lot of people are trying to rise up. Apparently, they're trying to shut it down. This is kind of where, if any regime change was going to happen, we didn't want a color revolution. We wanted the people of Iran to get their country back, and hopefully they still can. But we can't be involved in it. We've got to let that happen in its own grassroots kind of way. And again, we shouldn't be involved in it. That's for sure. Ukrainian military airfield was hit with the Kinzhal hypersonic missiles. It's some Western airport, they're saying. According to the statements, though, the targets included defense industry enterprises of Ukraine, fuel and energy facilities, port infrastructure supporting the Ukrainian armed forces, air defense radar stations, ammunition and fuel depots, mine and torpedo weapons arsenals, production workshops, storage and launch sites for UAVs, military airfields, and temporary deployment points of Ukrainian armed formations, nationalists, and foreign mercenaries. They hit hard. They're blowing the hell out of stuff. Now, Moscow's flagging flaws in NATO's defense planning. This is kind of interesting. And I think this is sort of, I don't know, this is some of the evidence that I suggest leads us to this possible Star Trek future that I've kind of talked about. So NATO's expecting a military conflict with Russia within the next 5 years, yet plans to raise defense spending to 5% of GDP only by 2035. Way more than 5 years from now. So what good does it do at that point? What I still contend is that NATO raising this amount is meant to help kind of get defense spending, the defense industry, the companies that make the types of things that likely we would use if we were in space, if we were constructing in space, if we had space stations, that we were building ships. Again, those types of things would be needed, right? We would need the defense industries. They're the only ones that can build this shit. So I don't know. We'll see. I mean, I still believe that is the direction we're heading. I don't think the future is going to resemble anything we've got now. I think it's going to be pretty fantastic, and I think a lot of us are going to have some really, really amazing opportunities in the future that we never saw or only imagined possible when we were kids watching Star Trek or something fun like that. So anyway, this is kind of going on, and I think Russia makes an interesting point there. That's all I can say. I feel like they're calling out something that is likely true. Indian coal imports from Russia reach 2-year high. They're just, again, pumping more coal. Like we were going to try to stop using any of this type of stuff, and then we've got, China and India that are burning coal like it's going out of style. It's just ridiculous how the people on the left try to solve problems. They do a bad job at it. Texas Attorney General Paxton, he's leading a bigly, I guess, against the Rhino Cornyn. This is the dude, I think, that tried to get him impeached. We don't like this Rhino Cornyn at all, and Paxton's running against him for Senate in 2026. Maybe he'll unseat him. Maybe we won't. Who knows? But the establishment definitely seems to be freaking out a little bit because Cornyn is not doing well, and I think is very disliked. And Paxton has one love amongst this entire nation. So it's going to be tough for them to handle that one. That's for sure. We've got this fireball that was seen over the southeast skies. I've got the video of it. This is actually a still picture. This is one of the things that I frequently like to think about when people talk about flat Earth. And again, I'm not trying to argue it. I just want to say, there's a few things that happen in nature that we can see, that we can witness, that we can watch, that we can observe with our own eyes without any help from any government sources. And they kind of, to me, would be evidence that, I don't know, that there's space, that stuff sometimes from space ends up coming here in our skies. And so if there is a dome over us, how does stuff come through it? Again, I don't believe in the flat earth theory. I don't. And I think this is some of why, because things like this. I love sky watching. I used to do it a lot. I'd sit out in my car when I lived in Tennessee, especially if it was kind of a warm night, and I'd sit out on my hood and I'd smoke and I'd just lean back and I'd just stare up at the sky and just watch shooting stars. I love shooting stars. They're very symbolic to me. And here is, here's a major one that came in. I think some people are making a bigger deal about it. So again, I've asked people, I've got one of my friends that I hang out with, older gentleman that I hang out with at the coffee shop on the weekends. He believes the Earth's flat, and I've asked him questions. I'm like, so how do shooting stars happen? How does the Coriolis effect happen? He's like, I don't know. And I'm like, I don't know. If you're gonna have a theory that everything's different than what we've kind of believed, shouldn't you be able to answer some of those questions, right? You would think you'd want to, because shooting stars happen, right? It's not like I'm making that up. It's not like I'm trusting NASA to tell me that. I've seen them. I've seen countless of them. I've seen the space station overhead. One time I was lucky enough to have it fly over, and you can see it. With the naked eye, you can tell it's a giant thing, and then if you get just binoculars, you can see the solar panels. You can see it. I've seen it with my own eyes. And you can also get people that have a good YouTube video you can find. Backyard astronomers looking at the space station. How does that float around out there if it's flat and there's, I just don't understand. That doesn't make sense, right? Things don't just float above the ground, right? We can't do that in any other way. So if it's not a sphere, which orbital mechanics make sense to me if it's a sphere, but not if it's flat. I just, all right, these are things we can see and witness. What? Explain that, flat Earth people, please. The few of you that have my email address and believe in the flat Earth, I mean, throw a theory. Don't throw me videos. I don't care about videos. Throw me an answer. Don't make me go have to dig for the answer. I don't care to prove your theory true. I want to. That's the other thing too. I find with people that are flat earthers, they almost never can explain it themselves. They'll reference you off to some video. You know, they'll cite the laser test that they've done, which I think is somewhat explainable, but nah. But oftentimes they don't have anything more than that. So again, if you're going to believe something, you kind of got to have some physics to back up what we can see and experience. This is why I think it's round, by the way, is stuff like this. I mean, like I've said, I don't know for sure. I've said it many, many times. I do not know for sure. I believe it's round. It seems like it is. The moon seems round. A lot of the planets seem round. We've supposedly sent spacecraft past them. I know that's where a lot of people don't believe. They just instantly say, nope, right? You give them any sort of proof that you would, here's images from space, and they're like, it's a fisheye lens. And it's like, okay. And then they'll show you a wide angle, and they'll say, see, it's flat. And it's like, well, that's a wide angle. You don't like the fisheye, but you're going to go to the wide angle because it makes it look flat. I mean, if anything, we probably need something in between a fisheye and wide angle. Again, it's just fun. I don't know, like it. Gavin Newsom suing Fox News for $787 million in the defamation case. It's stupid. I don't know, whatever. Jesse Waters supposedly played this interview where Trump was talking about how he talked to Gavin Newsom on the phone. Gavin Newsom saying that never happened. Trump actually supposedly showed that he called Gavin Newsom. So I don't know. Gavin Newsom's trying to do some weird stuff here, trying to sue him for $786 million. I wouldn't, I'm going to be very curious to see if this goes anywhere at all. We'll find out. Massive caught on video fireball lights up Montana. Oh, that's a different thing. I thought this was like the other thing. We've got this weird explosion that happened out in this saltwater disposal site. I don't even know what's going on. Outside of Sydney, it's in Montana. I'm like, where is there salt water in Montana? You guys aren't anywhere near an ocean, right? You're about as landlocked as you can be, aren't you? How the hell does that happen? Whatever the case is, I'm going to probably go back on this a little bit, but here's kind of the fire you can kind of see here. But I'm curious where the explosion, the explosion, let's see, can I get closer to that? I don't know if we can get doesn't look like, well, I guess that was kind of the big explosion. Boom, damn. Diagone. Shoot. This was supposedly felt up to 10 miles away. I don't know if shockwave, I think the shockwave moves slower than sound. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it does. So 10 miles away, 5 seconds, essentially, a little more than, but whatever. Let's call it 5 seconds per mile. That'd be 50 seconds. So you would see the flash, and then 50 seconds plus later, you would hear it. And then likely not too terribly long after that, you would feel it. Big explosion. Again, saltwater disposal site. Had a lot of propane and stuff, obviously. And it did go bada bing boom big time. So, yeah. And finally, sad news maybe. I don't know. For some of you guys. Rick Hurst. He was one of the Dukes of Hazzard stars. He's apparently dead, age 79. We're seeing a lot of interesting folks from our past are starting to wind their lives down. Kind of sad. All said. Got a lot going on, guys. We got a really good music show going to be coming up here in about 3 hours from right now. I actually got filming done a little earlier than normal in the day. It's kind of cool when that happens. But again, a lot happening. Be safe. Be strong. Understand that we're transporting ourselves from where we are right now to where we're going, where we're going to be. And there's going to be some steps in the way. It's going to happen how it happens. Some people are going to get a little more nervous than others. Just hang tight. We're getting through it. Keep involved. I mean, I don't want you just sitting on your hands by any means. In fact, I think that's one of the most important things that any of us can do right now is getting involved. Be it local politics, be it whatever, right? Get into your school board meetings, maybe trying to get on the board of your town, whatever. Get involved. Get involved locally with what's happening. And you will sleep better at night, and you will also know you're part of the solution. And that's what we need. more solution makers. Keep up the hard work, guys. I love you guys. Where we go one, we go all. It's On the Fringe with Dan Radio Style.